All right. Welcome to the panel on utilizing IMAX VisionScience to quantify quality and enhance streaming profitability. We're here to tell you that you can have your cake and eat it too when it comes to streaming at the highest quality and saving money in distribution costs. I'm Doug Hansel, and today we're fortunate to have Lynn Elliott, Director of Product Marketing for the IMAX Streaming and Consumer Technology Division, and Abdul Rahman, Chief Product Officer at IMAX. So first question is out to you, audience. How many people out there believe that streaming profitability is where it needs to be today? I see 0 hands. So yeah, maybe there are a few problems that we need to overcome. So we're here to talk about that. So let's start off with Lynn. Since you're going to talk about streaming profitability in this panel, maybe we should cover the challenges and, the problems that are keeping streaming execs up at night. What are the pain points?
Yeah, I've been in this industry now for 15 years or so, and it's been a whirlwind, right? I mean, the last 10 years or so, it's been, or depending on your perspective, it's been pretty much in a state of disruption. And media and entertainment and streaming has been all over the place. So, but I think it's kind of reaching a point where it's coming of age. So there's a maturation period that I think is starting to be noticed by several key factors. So first, consolidation. Every day we see in the headlines that there's partnerships and acquisitions happening in the industry, and that's kind of an indication that the industry is knitting itself together in response to evolving markets. And secondly is just the sheer ubiquity of streaming. So 95% of U.S. households have one streaming service or another. So nearly everyone is already on a streaming platform. And so that begs the question, where are more subscribers going to come from? And then thirdly is just slowing growth rates. So in an industry like this, it's been a rocket ship, but it's no longer the rocket ship that it has been. So last year was 2022 was the growth rate was 22%, and that has slipped in 2023 to 10%, according to Antenna. So the growth rates are slowing, there's consolidation, and there's a saturation of the market. It really indicates that it's a mature market. And so in an industry that's matured, what do leaders do to kind of keep themselves afloat or keep sustainable? And what is keeping them up at night? And I would put that into 3 buckets. So first is managing costs. And second is keeping customers happy, keeping the churn down. And third is finding new sustainable growth methods. And so when you're talking about managing costs, content is king. There's a balance there between what you spend on the content that you want to put on your platform and then the technology and infrastructure that you have to display that content. And where do you put that balance? And secondly is the churn. Obviously that's a lot of the, what's in the news is that customers are churning off platforms. It's about keeping customers happy and keeping them delighted, actually, helping them find the content that they love. And then also, using data to make decisions and then delivering good quality content to them and knowing that you're delivering good content to them, quality to them. And then thirdly was finding sustainable growth. So, in a market where the subscriber growth is growing, where do you find other sources of revenue? And that might be premium tiers. It might be advertising. It might be something that we haven't even thought of yet. So those are the 3 areas that I would keep me up at night in an industry like this. And IMAX actually has products that deal or address all 3 of those issues.
So yeah, let's talk about that technology. So how does IMAX technology actually fit into this maturing market and provide a competitive edge?
So I think that from a high level, I mean, this industry, streaming as an industry, has been all about finding eyeballs up until now. You know, it's getting people on the platform. And now it's shifted. With maturing industry, it's more about profitability. It's about demonstrating that you can sustain a business with this. And that's what's most important. And in an industry that's where the growth rate is slowing, the best path to profitability is to reduce costs. So how do you do that? And there's lots of ways to do that, really. I mean, you're hearing every day about people being laid off. You can produce less content, you know, but those all have significant long-term impacts and short-term impacts that may be negative. When you're talking about technology, one of the biggest costs for these streaming platforms is their CDN delivery charges. And so what we can do as IMAX is we have technology called VisionScience that measures the quality. We always start with quality as IMAX. We measure the perceptual quality of content, of video, and once you have that measurement, then you can do things with it. Like you can take opportunities to reduce the bit rate. And so we help streaming customers reduce their bit rate, reduce their bandwidth by sometimes significant amounts while not impacting the quality that they're delivering to their customers. So it's keeping customers happy while also delivering lower bit rate streams and reducing costs.
It's also because the delivery side is more OpEx, right? So previously, when you had managed services, you could set up the infrastructure, have a whole lot of CapEx cost, and then take the advantage of that forever. But now, because you are delivering video at high bit rates through internet, you have to spend money in delivering that video, and that's the OpEx expense. And CFOs don't like OpEx at the end of the day.
They do not. So, Abdul, can you explain to us how the IMAX VisionScience actually works, and how does it compare with other quality measurements that are in use today?
It's a representation of how humans perceive video. It's the most accurate and complete representation of how humans perceive video, which is what you need to optimize video. Once you can watch the video like humans do, which is what our algorithms do, then you can use that measurement to make decisions. And in order to make those decisions, you need to absolutely make sure that you are measuring it accurately. So imagine you go to a doctor who wants to diagnose what is something that is up with you. And if the test is not accurate, there's no way you can cure it. You're going to move in the wrong direction. There's so much video out there, you cannot have people watch it and make decisions because it's real time and content is only growing every step of the way. So you need an automated, accurate way of measuring video that behaves like how humans do, and on a segment by segment basis and scene by scene basis, guarantee the quality level that meets your business needs and reduce the bits that are not really contributing to quality at the end of the day. And that is unique about our quality measurement that we have built over 20 years of science that we have built through tens of PhDs and hundreds of journal papers and so on and so forth. Really passionate about how the human brain works and how it behaves when it perceives quality. So we always try to solve that problem in the most accurate fashion, which is why we're able to do it in a complete fashion. So we support HDR content. That's where it's going. If your content is 4K or 8K, we support that at the end of the day. If you're perceiving it on a smaller versus larger device, we can understand the impact of impairments and how they're perceived on those devices. So it's a very generic and accurate way of doing that, which is why it can be deployed not only for file-based environments, but this is where it becomes really, it stands out that it can be done in a live environment as well. And that's because we have always really tried to understand human brain in the simplest of way. Occam's razor is the principle that we have always used. Let's not try and compute everything under the sun and hope that we predict it accurately. Let's study the human brain in the simplest of ways and understand that, and only measure what aligns with how humans perceive it.
Right. So, Lynn, I think we've got a couple products that are at the IMAX booth here that we could talk about. So, StreamSmart is one of them, right? And I believe that's the one that does the optimization. So, perhaps you could tell me, is it an encoder? I mean, what is StreamSmart?
Yeah, so you mentioned it. It's optimization. So StreamSmart takes our viewer score, our VisionScience, and it creates opportunities to reduce bits while keeping the quality the same. And so we have the ability, and Abdul can explain this a lot better than I can in terms of the science behind it, but the way the visual system works is you see in steps. And so we know that if we can lock in the quality and we know the quality score of something, then we can start reducing bits and know that in some cases we can reduce bits in ways that humans won't even notice it. And so we can do so and save up to 15%. So StreamSmart is really a software product that fits within an existing workflow. It uses the encoder that you already have, so it's a very easy lift, and we basically communicate via API with your encoder and tell it to segment things and score them and pick out the optimized version and stitch together a file that is up to 15% lighter than what you would have delivered otherwise without any impact to what a viewer sees.
Sounds like a win-win. So, Abdul, any other comments about how it works without going too deep in the weeds?
That's a tough ask.
I was going to say, really?
Of what Lynn talked about is the file-based workflow that we implement. We are demonstrating together with AWS as a partner on their booth and on our booth as well, how we are able to achieve that same or similar savings using the same principle and the metric for real-time and live environments as well. So in that case, the simplest implementation, which is again an easy lift, is a manifest manipulation-based approach. So we have the encoder provide us a couple of additional options at lower bit rates, and if those bit rates are performing, whether it's in a simple or advanced configuration like content-aware encoding, we can optimize on top of that. And if a lower bit rate is able to achieve the same quality as how you're delivering today, then we would pick the lower bit rate by making very minimal changes to the manifest at the end of the day.
This is automated, right? That's the key to this.
100%.
It takes no human involvement.
100%, yeah. So that's the whole idea. Instead of people watching it and making decisions, which they can do at the amount of content that's out there and the scale, you have to automate it.
Right. So I was wondering if you could also explain the differences between measuring quality in this, human perceptual metric compared with other methods that are out there, because there are a lot of different companies out there that do measurement, and this sounds very unique. So can you talk a little bit more how this IMAX VisionScience is unique and different from other measurement methods?
So when IMAX says we guarantee the same quality, we mean that, which means the metric needs to be able to measure every single issue that is with the video. What we offer is the unique capability of assessing the degrees of impairments in the most accurate fashion. So that's one that stands out in terms of accuracy that it has. Second thing is completeness. So we support HDR formats. We support all types of resolutions, frame rates. The third capability it has is its adaptability to the type of viewer. So often we hear that golden eyes make decisions when it comes to deciding on technology stacks and how to configure them. But at the end of the day, the metrics that are out there, the other options that are out there, they can't watch like how golden eyes do, because the psychovisual behaviors of golden eyes is very different than a typical viewer. At the end of the day, if somebody is watching at home with a glass of wine in their hand, they're not going to be looking at every single thing, but a golden eye does. So how do you make sure that the impairment that are there are picked by the metric like a golden eye does? So we model that. That's unique. Like I said previously, it can work in a compute efficient fashion in real time with minimal resources at scale, which is unique as well. There are approaches out there that would take you a big heavy server and can only do it for a couple of streams and end up spending more compute than you would spend on encoding, which is not tenable at the end of the day. And you cannot do it in real time. So I can go on and on and on. But it's deeply rooted in science. It's deeply rooted in understanding how the human visual system works. It uses the most advanced deep learning based approaches at the end of the day, and it's done right. And because of that, it's able to perform at this level.
It's amazing. So when we're reducing these file sizes, you mentioned around 15%. How much is the kind of delta? How much savings have you seen, for instance, and what is the difference when we look at content? What content can you save more on than, is it complexity? What are the kind of things that drive the savings of bitrate savings?
It depends on a number of factors at the end of the day. Fundamentally, it depends on how the content interacts with the processing that's used to process it. If you're using a newer codec, we're able to save more. If you're using a more advanced encoder, we are able to save more because that codec encoder is able to keep that quality same for longer durations at lower bitrate. So our job is to select the operating point that determines the same quality at a lower cost. So it really depends on how that content is processed by that encoder. Our performance is very consistent across all different bit rates and across different codecs, across different encoders. Because generally speaking, when you encode, you are dependent on heuristics based on how the content behaves and stuff like that, and you are hoping for the best. Perceptual quality measurement and formally doing that's not what's commonly used when you do codec design, when you do encoder design. So this is a greenfield opportunity that we are taking advantage of because we have the most accurate metric, because it's not something that existing technologies and encoders take advantage of. We bring that dimension to the existing products.
Right. So I was going to ask also, a lot of people are familiar with Netflix's VMAF, for example. Can you help us understand the differences between the IMAX VisionScience and VMAF, for instance? How are the measurements different?
It saves you an order of magnitude more right from the get-go. It's 10 times more, it's faster 10 times. It supports HDR formats and others. Our metrics work for live and file-based workflows. If you have a poor quality of source, if you use a reference-based metric like VMAF, you can detect that. There is no way it would be garbage in, garbage out. We are able to understand the performance of a source as well in relation to how an encoder is performing and its impact on the viewer. And we can adapt based on the type of viewer and the actual viewer who's making the decision at the end of the day. While also obviously being able to predict how a typical viewer would perceive it, and so on and so forth. So there are a number of those capabilities that makes it stand out. Another aspect that I would mention here is that IMAX's mission is to bring truly differentiated premium experiences in the home. We want to work with the whole industry. We bring the best out there for everybody to use. We are not in a competitive situation like Netflix may be. So we want to help everybody be great because our commitment is to the viewers at the end of the day. And we have a big research team that does the best science and brings it to the industry at the end of the day.
The other thing I would mention too is that VMAF is, for a lot of people is an open source quality measurement tool, which is great. But what we've done with StreamSmart is we've wrapped a whole bunch of decisioning engine capabilities around that. So it's not just the measurement, it's the measurement plus. Now you get the segmentation and you get the decisions of which segment to use in which is going to save you money. And so there's a lot more to our product than just what our quality measurement tool allows you to do, or science allows you to do, is is much more than just measurement. We've wrapped this product around it as well.
It's just not the metric; it's how you use it.
There you go. So I mean, that's a great thing. It's just like, this sounds truly unique, and I can imagine a large streaming organization could save millions of dollars in streaming costs in this way. So, why wouldn't everybody use it?
That's the question. I think that is the question. And to make it even sweeter, there's more. It's actually priced in such a way so that it's based on the percentage of savings. So there's a guaranteed ROI. We work with you beforehand to figure out what your average savings would be, and we will price the license based on what that savings is. So you're always going to be saving more than what you're paying for the license. So why wouldn't you do this? It's a light lift. It's going to be guaranteed ROI, and you're going to save money.
Right. So, Abdul, I wanted to ask you about the actual scoring part of things. So, when you're evaluating, you generate a score based on how the quality is, and I think it's called the XVS score, right? Can you tell us how that was developed, and how is it like 0 to 500, 0 to 100? What's the scoring like?
Yeah, it's called XVS, IMAX viewer score. It's 0 to 100. It linearly scales with quality. So if you perceive better quality, it grows proportionally as a result of that. Which means if you improve your score from 75 to 80, you have the same delta in quality as compared to when you improve from 85 to 90 at the end of the day. We have used the score. The benefit, one of the additional benefits of the score is that you can deploy anywhere throughout the content delivery process. We have used the score to benchmark the performance of different streaming platforms, tens of streaming platforms for all different types of content, and it performs consistently across all different types of content. So you can use it to understand where do you stand in the industry compared to your competitors, where you can set business goals and KPIs based on that, and you can want to consistently meet that. Maybe you don't want to go above a specific quality level if it's become too expensive for you, so you can control that as a result of that. So it's an independent metric that is built by a brand that is passionate about delivering differentiated experiences, and is offering that to the industry for all the benefits that we are talking about.
So you mentioned the devices. I can imagine then that different devices that people are consuming content on would, behave differently. A 65-inch television screen is going to be very different from a phone or a tablet. And I'm kind of curious, how does the technology account for the variables in the actual consumption across different devices?
Perceptibility of impairments is different depending on device. A bigger screen shows more impairments than a smaller screen does, and we measure that based on how humans perceive contrast, for example, and how perceivable the impairment is based on underlying content. So we have models for that in there. But we also, not only that, but we also are able to measure the ability of a device to preserve details. So, for example, a TV, depending on what the content requirements are, if a TV can only do up to 600 nits and the content is graded for 1,000 nits, where are the loss of details at the end? And the fidelity of content is lost. So we can measure that as well, which is truly unique. And one of the things that we have lately been working on is understanding the panel's behavior as well. So if it's a QD OLED, or if it's an OLED panel, or it's an LCD, we literally compare the linear light that's coming out of that panel and how it matches a reference monitor at the end. Do the skin tones look the same? Do the shadow details look the same? So we can really go deep into all these aspects that at the end of the day impact the human experience.
And I understand that this was more of a VOD type of thing, but now it sounds like you guys have got this available for live as well. So that being able to save on the live stream with, obviously no reference source or anything there must be tremendous for sports and live events, things like that. What are the challenges, quickly in our last few minutes here, of doing this live? What about latencies and things like that?
Yeah, so the metric has always been able to perform well for live and file-based environments. Now we have found a very simple way of using it to optimize. I think that was the key thing. Instead of interacting with encoders in real time and doing back and forth, because you don't have the opportunity to do that in a real-time environment. You don't want to introduce that additional complexity in the workflow and introduce additional steps that can potentially fail. We have always been thinking about how we can make bring the same benefit that you have on the file-based side, bring that to the live side. And through the use of a simple manifest manipulation-based approach, which is very typical, all streamers do that today, you can make perceptual quality-based decisions to pick the lowest bitrate and drive savings that we just talked about. So it's a small additional step that is backward compatible, so you can deliver the same number of profiles. There's no impact on the playback aspect. It's the same configuration. Everything works the same. It's an additional step that picks the lowest bitrate, achieving the same quality, and that's done based on the metric fundamentally.
Fantastic. Well, in our remaining few minutes here, it sounds like a win-win, doesn't it? Wouldn't you agree? How could you not want to save 15 or more % on your streaming costs? So if you want to be able to check this out and see the comparisons yourself, please do come over and visit us at booth 1521 on the other end of this hall. 1529, sorry, I know that. On the other end of this hall, and see for yourself. There's some fantastic demos set up that you can, and I challenge you, see if you can see the difference. It's quite amazing.
Yeah, so it's in partnership with AWS. So we are showing a few different streams, but one of them is a real live stream of the show floor. So it's using it live. It's being delivered to AWS.
The live feed from AWS.
From AWS. So from the show floor, it goes to AWS Cloud. It's encoded using one of the cloud-based encoders, packager, and then optimized and then played back on our booth and on AWS's booth as well. So you can see how it's typically encoded using the most advanced configuration and one of the industry-leading encoders, and it's also available in an optimized fashion as well, side by side.
Come check it out at the IMAX booth. Thank you, everybody.